Sexual health is not the first thing people consider when they hear cancer treatment. Visions of hair loss and chemotherapy are more common reactions. But sexual health and oncofertility are just as important. This time, on Come On In, AYA Cancer Unfiltered, we meet with medical professionals and former AYA cancer patients to get an honest perspective on treatment, oncofertility, and sexual health. In episodes 1 and 3, we talked a lot about oncofertility and why it's so important to consider your fertility options before treatment. Dr. Lakshmi Kondapalli, a reproductive endocrinologist and infertility expert at the Colorado Center for Reproductive Medicine, explains.
The best opportunity for patients to optimize their fertility preservation options is to pursue some sort of banking prior to starting chemotherapy or radiation. When patients are in treatment, many of the fertility options that I can offer them just are not as successful. For example, for a young woman who desires egg banking, she may not respond to some of the hormonal medications that are needed in order to stimulate the eggs in her ovaries to grow. In addition, one of the concerns that I discuss with patients is that even if I'm able to stimulate their ovaries to produce mature eggs, I don't know about the quality of those eggs. Any eggs that we collect once a patient has gone through treatment or is actively in treatment have now been exposed to all those chemotherapeutic agents and radiation therapy, and there may be unknown changes within the DNA of those eggs, and so egg quality will really be an unknown factor in that. The same is true for males who have initiated treatment and then decide to pursue sperm banking. Oftentimes there may not even be any sperm in a sample to be able to freeze, or secondly, any sperm that we are able to freeze in that setting will also have been exposed to chemotherapy and radiation, and quality of that sperm will be unknown.
So basically, fertility preservation may still be viable for those who have only gone through surgery, but is less likely to be an option for someone who has undergone chemo. If you have not made any effort to preserve your future fertility options, consult your doctor to see what options are available. Also, remember that not everyone becomes permanently infertile due to cancer treatment. If you want to have biological children, it may still be possible, but it's not foolproof. And even then, sperm donation, egg donation, and adoption are all potential ways to become parents as well. Even though oncofertility preservation may be less viable during the treatment phase, there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to sexual health. Many patients face sexual health difficulties during cancer treatment, including erectile dysfunction, female sexual dysfunction, numbness, and periods slowing down or stopping altogether. You'll want to ask your doctors if it's safe to have sex before you're intimate. And if it is, make sure you talk to them about birth control and practicing safe sex. During cancer treatment, your immune system is not at its best, making it harder to fight off STDs and STIs. Dating and relationships are often on young people's minds, and cancer treatment can make these important connections seem daunting or downright impossible. Jonny Imerman of Closed Talk and founder of Imerman Angels has kindly offered to share his advice on dating and social interactions during cancer treatment. Welcome back. How can cancer affect someone's social life?
For me, for example, it gave me social anxiety. I'm a real extrovert who loves people. But when I got diagnosed, went through chemo, all of a sudden, 2 years of surgeries and chemo, I'm living in my mom's house again, a 26-year-old single guy, or I'm at the hospital for 8 hours a day chemos. So you're like back and forth, hospital, home. And then when I tried afterwards to have energy and be social again and get out there, I felt very uncomfortable. It felt awkward. And we weren't around people. And then all of a sudden we're back around people again. And it's like, gotta get your mojo again.
Dating can be a big part of a young adult's social life. How is that affected during treatment?
Great question. Dating and young adults with cancer are like disaster. There's no other really way to say it. Sounds extreme, But the reality is, it's like you look different, you feel different, you don't have hair, you lose your eyebrows, you lose your eyelashes, and I think even with men, a lot of times it's like very, they're very self-conscious about it. Um, Energy is not strong. So if you're like trying to date and you're like, I'm just tired and like I'm talking to this person over dinner and I can't even keep my eyes open, like there's just a lot of little things that make dating challenging. And I can remember feeling myself when I went through it. Like I just looked bad. My skin was bleached white. I've been broken out a lot with like your immune system's crushed. So, you get red splotches, like cystic acne, like those are like typical side effects oftentimes on chemo because your immune system is so crushed. And so I can remember when I first started dating a girl after treatment, and I couldn't believe that a girl would want to go out with me because I was just like not in a very high self-esteem place, a confident place. And I think you got to overcome that, and it takes time. And it just takes a while. The social, anxiety, I think, for a lot of people from the trauma, just like what I described, all these things, little by little, you start chipping away at them. And then little by little, you start building your confidence again, and that you feel comfortable being on dates again. It really is a self-esteem issue. You feel your self-esteem is strong enough that and you feel, yeah, I think this person would want to go out with me.
If someone didn't get a mentor when they were first diagnosed, is it too late? Can they still get a mentor?
Never too late. We can get somebody as they're on their last week of chemo. We just had someone in Miami who found us before their last treatment, and we hooked her up with another young adult breast cancer survivor, and it was great. She still wanted it. We would love to have had her earlier, but we didn't. And she found us later, and we were able to help her later. And then we'll have certain people that say, I'm 2-3 years out of treatment, and I'm still emotionally struggling, which isn't that uncommon. And you know what we do with that person? We say, okay, we're glad you're clean, but this is still emotionally hard. Why don't you talk to Valerie in LA? She's a 10-year survivor of the same thing. She's just farther out than you, and she's dealt with these emotional issues and building back up. Talk to her. She's a real veteran. You're just 2 years out. So she becomes the mentee, even though she's a survivor 2 years clean. There's still value there. It's someone that you don't have to be afraid to tell them your fears. You don't have to say, well, what is sex like after testicular cancer? Or what is dating like when you have a double mastectomy and you have, reconstructed breasts? How does that work? Like, when do you tell someone or when do you not tell someone? All the little things, what to eat on chemo, what not to eat on chemo. It's just the people who walk the walk truly get it. And I think there's so much value in just sharing that knowledge back with somebody who's just starting. He's new, and it's scary. We all were new to it. Well, we're scared in the beginning.
Thank you. Sex can feel embarrassing and uncomfortable to talk about, even more so when listening to a podcast. But these are important topics for both your physical and mental well-being. Just learn what you can and laugh through the awkwardness. I promise it makes everything easier. That concludes our time together. Next time, we dive into social isolation, feelings of loneliness, and what you can do about it. Tune in for Treatment, the social impact of cancer, to learn more. See you next time. This has been Come On In, AYA Cancer Unfiltered, a podcast for patients 15 to 39. This podcast was produced by Reimagine Well with funding by 70K. Our creative producer is Emma Grace Eisenman with video production by Sedona Cruz. Our creative director is Roger Holzberg. Our content supervisor is Adele Sender. Our project manager and coordinator is Pamela Primessa Karstens. Our social media manager is Sedona Cruz. Our social media intern is Ryan Meglino. Script by Emma Grace Eisenman, based on the Adolescents and Young Adult Cancer and Oncofertility Guides by Reimagine Well. Audio editing by Emma Grace Eisenman. Video editing by Sedona Cruz. Additional audio and video editing by Graham Karstens. Digital artwork by Ray Jameson. Graphic design by Sarah Gray. A big thank you to our medical experts, Dr. Leonard Sender, Dr. Lakshmi Kondapalli, Jocelyn Harrison, RDN, Jonny Imerman, MSW, and Debbie Wagers, CCLS. Our guests for this episode were Jonny Imerman of Close Talk and founder of Imerman Angels, Mallory Casperson, MS, co-founder and CEO of Cactus Cancer Society, Lauren Creel, MSW, MPH Chief Operations Officer of Cactus Cancer Society, David Craig, CEO of Grit Health, and Lauren Listauskas, Vice President of Community at Grit Health. Stephen Giolarakis, President of the Stephen G. Cancer Foundation, Angela Giolarakis, PhD, founder of the Stephen G. Cancer Foundation, and Blake Dirksen. Thank you. This podcast is possible because of you. I've been your host, Marie Sad, and thank you for listening.